Hey guys, welcome to the process. Is Alessandra Nicholson and myself, Sterile MD. Guys, today we're talking about managers. What's the role of a manager, and how do we determine a good manager from a bad manager? Alessandra, how are you doing tonight?
Doing pretty good, pretty excited to get into this conversation again.
So, so guys, we'll be right back. Welcome, guys. Today we're talking about managers, right? So now, some of y'all saw my intro about managers, the do's and don'ts, or like managers who just don't do enough. Alessandra, what's your take on managers? I'm gonna ask you right away because there are some managers who don't play their part. They come in early, leave early, in the office, 6 hours, put off the light, they're gone. They take days off. No one has any idea. Oh, did your manager come in today? I don't know. What do you think about managers like that? Or are they legitimately doing work, putting work in? Or are they just trying not to get on the floor and get that physical work in, like do trays, assemble trays, work in Dick and Tam, assemble some case cards, move some case cards around,
See,
organize those pan racks. Simple little things. Like, why aren't some managers doing those little things they could do for 5, 10 minutes every day? I mean, not
I
all day
mean,
long, just 5, 10 minutes.
I mean, hold on now. Wait a minute. You just why? I don't know why, because I'm not that person. So I can't say why. I think there's partly. I think some of the issue is some of our leadership simply does not know how to do our job. That's one why. Like we have some leaders that have moved up, I think, too fast. Other folks that are literally just from different backgrounds, like nurses and scrub techs that didn't come from sterile
Mm,
processing and
mm,
couldn't jump in if they wanted to. So that's
mm.
an issue. But also, there are plenty of sterile processing technicians first leaders. I'll say that that feel like once they move into the manager's role, that's not their place anymore on the floor with frontline staff. So
So they feel intimidated. They feel they were getting paid too much. What was the deal with that? Like you were doing that a few years ago. Why can't you do it now?
I don't think,
I don't get it.
at least from what I've heard, I'll say it from that perspective. Because I say that because we've talked about it with some different leaders on the process. We've also talked about it in clubhouses a few times about should we, shouldn't we? If we should, how much should we? Because I think
Mhm.
there's levels to that, right? Like we have some of the managers that were in the group said that they're on the floor every day like a technician. That's it. They play a role. Other people
Mhm.
said that they jump in if there's a need. So maybe somebody calls out, or maybe, it's just really busy that day. They will jump onto the floor. Other leaders said no, that if you are hopping on the floor, especially consistently, was something I
Mhm.
heard a key thing between a crisis and then a consistent staffing issue. They were like, no, you need to go back to that office and you need to start networking with your leadership and you need to start figuring out how to support your department by actually getting staff in. So I don't know. I think it's a big conversation and it's complicated because that portion is to me very valid. If I'm not doing my part to make sure the department has what it needs because I'm assisting on the floor as frontline, then my position is vacant. Just like if the staff member called out.
But don't you get paid more to do more?
But what's doing more? All right, that's the question. What is doing more? Um, I think as technicians, because I remember when I was a tech, before I
Mhm.
became a supervisor, my first supervisor position, I would frequently look up at my supervisor and she was on the floor. And
Okay.
that was how she trained us. That was how she kept us doing what we were supposed to be doing. was by coming through, and maybe like you said there was a case card, so she might open up that case card and scan it for you, and she might look at that and say, hey, don't forget this flexible scope has this particular step, and then she would leave the area. And it wasn't that she was doing, a lot of heavy lifting, but she was present, she was around if you had a question, she helped take some of that little pressure off of you. That's one step that you didn't have to do, and it made me feel like she had my back.
That's true. That's true. So why are we seeing those managers? To me, most manager job descriptions have a area where they want you to be visible on the floor. Most, like 90% that I have seen, there's an area where they want you to be present on the floor with the team. And 90% of the managers I've seen are never on the floor with the team. Like, and I'm not talking about on the floor, you're walking through like a captain. Aye, sir. Hey,
Yes,
I
right.
mean, coming in, you need some help. Can I get that pan rack for you? Can I pull this out the washer? And just simple little things that won't take 2 minutes to do. Even if you walk in by, hey, if you have those conveyor belts, it's full. Let me
Yeah.
take this one out, scan it to the rack, 5 minutes. I'll go
I
back and get.
mean, but to play devil's advocate, there are also a number of technicians that feel that's not enough. They want to see their supervisors and managers right next to them, putting up kits in Decatam every day. They want the same level of commitment. And I think that part is where we start to lose a little bit of ground between the two areas, because that's not possible. They can't provide adequate supervision if they're on the floor as part of the workforce, part of the workflow. I can't provide oversight if I'm stuck in Decantam.
So, have you ever been in a situation where trays on the shelf, bad day, sterilizer was probably down, now it's like three, everything is now backed up, and then the manager
Tuesday?
comes out, and everyone's like, oh, the manager is out on the floor. She's in Deacon Town. Oh, he's in Deacon Town. Wow. Come and see that. Come and see. Come and see. Like everybody's like, it's like a once in a lifetime situation. Come see
Yes.
that. Come see this. And never
Yeah.
see it. So like some managers never take the opportunity to do
Some
that
don't.
networking. In fact, networking with upper management is good, but networking is if your team
With the
it
team.
is I think more important than that. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
And I mean, it really is about what your end goals are, because that manager is responsible for things that the frontline technician may not even understand. Like if we say there's a vacancy and we're short staffed and our manager should be on the floor, from a management perspective, what it takes for me to fill that vacancy is a lot more labor than you may imagine. You have to create, I have to understand how to create those requisitions with human resources. And for those of you that aren't familiar,
That's
um,
easy. That's easy.
it's
Come on. That's
it's
easy. Come
not.
on.
It's
Come on. That's easy. Come on.
it's not, because here's the thing. We're talking about your requisition, we're talking about staffing templates, we're talking about capital planning. So if, like, for instance, right now, I need to also be thinking not only about the technicians that I have on the floor today, but I also have to forecast the technicians I'm going to need in 2022, 2023, sometimes going all the way out 5 years out. So that manager actually does have to spend time making those plans. If they don't, you get what you see right now on the floor, which is staff. We complain and we say we don't have enough staff. Maybe we're doing 80 cases a day and there's only 10 technicians on this floor.
So where were those plans when you were making them for 8 hours? Where are they now?
What do you mean?
We're still short staffed now. So what's the point? So what's the point? Like you were making all those plans and now
You can't
where
throw, but here,
what
see, this is
what
how I
is
knew. This is how I knew we was gonna be doing this, because
Mhm.
you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You can't walk into a sterile processing department that's not functioning well and say, well, who was doing anything? Well, who ordered this? Well, who did? That's not
Mhm.
going to get us anywhere. I mean, yes, I got to come in, I got to get some background. But after that, you got to pick up the pieces and move forward. And a lot of times, especially for a lot of SPD management,
Mhm.
you have to rebuild your departments every time you get into them. That slows you down tremendously when we're talking about admin work. And that's just me putting the structure of the department together. I still have to be responsible for daily management. So God forbid you have any culture problems or you have to deal with human resources often or you have many call outs. You could spend your whole day in the middle of issues and not even get to your admin work. But I'll tell you something about managers and SPD. You want to talk about overtime? We don't get
Hmm.
paid for that. So if I come out on the floor and you see me all day as a technician, when I go back into my office and I'm there till 5, 6, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night, making sure that I catch up on my admin work so that my department doesn't fail, nobody pats us on the back for that. We don't get that thank you from the staff, and we do not get that in compensation. We do it because we care. So there's levels to it because my staff can do overtime all day, but they're getting paid for that. They don't do free overtime.
But to me, that's the reason why you get on the floor. So the staff will recognize you actually going the extra mile. Nobody knows what you do in the office. Nobody knows anything that's going on unless you give them a report. Our
Absolutely.
managers reporting to the team what they're actually doing. And I think
Absolutely.
that's a key thing too. Let the team know, hey guys, I'm working on acquiring new staff. I'm
Yes.
working on getting us a new washer. I'm
Yes.
working on new equipment for the department, etc., etc., etc. Why can't
Communication is key. And
communication is key?
communication is a big industry within itself for us. Like we spend a lot of money bringing in educators about how to have better systems of education. We spend a lot of money bringing in folks from like Joint Commission to train us on how to put together programs so that we can actually get ideas from our staff or we can get issues from the front line. So it sounds simple, but it is complicated. But I do agree with you 100%. It's the easiest way for you to build trust. It's the easiest way for you to find out what's really going on your floor. And that's, within your staff, but also as far as equipment. Sometimes staff members are so overwhelmed and busy, they don't remember to report off every single little thing. But if I go spend 15 minutes in decon, I might find out that the sink number 3 isn't really working properly. Or if I go over and I
Hmm.
unload a rack and sterilize and I see, okay, this handle isn't really giving me the type of action I want to see. So,
Hmm.
rounding is different.
Yep.
And I think that's what you're describing is rounding. That's not me working on the floor as a technician. That's me coming out, being visible, and taking care of the needs of my staff. It's getting
Yes.
wild.
So yeah, definitely, definitely. So I'm kind of being devil's advocate here. So
Gunning me.
a big devil. Um so definitely, I'm not saying that every manager should get in the trenches every day,
Right.
push out 20 trays. But I'm saying at least be visible
Be
in terms of
visible.
letting your team, in fact, different players on your team, right? Some
Yes.
some managers only hang out with certain people. I don't think that's right. Like
Mhm.
hang out with your high performers, hang out with your low performers, find out why they're slow, find out why your top performers, find out why they're fast, find out what's keeping the low performers down and what's working for the high performers.
Mhm.
So and then you could maybe find an even level for both of them and
Yeah.
help both of them work out.
Another
Simple
thing you
things.
can find are just solutions to problems. Sometimes people don't feel comfortable to speak up within the large group settings or the shift reports, or even just sending emails. Some staff members do not feel comfortable to just reach out to their managers via email. Some of y'all are overly comfortable, but but I think it creates a space where just one on one, they may share something with you. And I've gotten some of the best process improvement projects that we've done in some of my departments have come from ideas that came out of rounds. So you can really, in a lot of ways, I could say we wouldn't have ever done them had I not been rounding and talked in with those technicians one on one.
So, question: how visible should a manager be? How visible? You should 90-20, 80-20, 90-10,
I mean, I think
60-50.
I
What?
yeah. So when you hit 60-50, I was like, oh no,
Oh, you got
that's too
110
low.
then.
That's too low. But yeah, I would say at least 80-20. At the least. Because again, it's gonna depend on other factors. Certain facilities are a lot more hectic than others. Certain facilities are more heavy on admin work as well. So there may be some of us that have our every single day is jam packed with meetings straight from the time I hit the door to the time I leave. But I've also worked in facilities where there was rarely really a strong schedule of meetings. So that can dictate it too. And I mean, we have to remember, just because I'm your manager doesn't mean I don't have a manager. So there are places that we have to be as well that are non-negotiable for us. Like
Mm,
there's certain meetings I just can't skip. Now, if
interesting.
there's a crisis on the
Interesting.
floor, we all understand that, but there's certain things I can't just not show up for.
So now if the ship is sinking,
Ship is sinking is a whole different conversation, right? And that's the beauty of being in healthcare too. I think is when it comes a crisis to the patients, every healthcare leader should understand that that changes everything right now, right? So like right now we're experiencing a lot of hospitals that have bed shortages or staffing shortages, and they're being forced to pull staff from different areas to help with patient care, and that includes leadership. So if something's going on in our ORs, I don't know about, I can't speak for every leader because there's various level of degrees of competence and willingness, but I would say most will jump in.
yeah, I kind of agree with you there. I kind of agree. But jumping to what extent? So is there such a thing as giving too much help? As
Yes.
you think so?
Period. Yes, period. And this is something I feel like I feel differently from a lot of people in our industry on. I think that there is a limit for all of us, and that includes technicians. I don't particularly like to see my technicians that are doing an exuberant amount of overtime. If you're doing it because it's something that you like and you want to do it, okay, I understand. But also, I just want to remind everybody this is a very physical job. And we will not be able to play, just like a football player, we won't be able to stay in the game forever. You do have to tend to your body. You do have to allow yourself to rest, to stretch, to be recovered. And we don't think about overtime the way that it stresses our body, our joints. It's just, it can be harmful, is my opinion. And I feel like technicians understand it in certain ways. Like if I were to ask somebody to do 16 hours of decontam, they probably look at me and be like, okay, no, you're really tripping. Like that is too much on my body. But if I ask them to do 16 hours of sterilizing, they may or may not really see that as hard labor. But I mean, think about it. All that lifting that you're doing, that transferring, the twisting and turning. So I personally don't encourage excessive overtime. And from a management standpoint, I think if you're finding that your department really only runs when there's excessive overtime, that speaks to there being some flaws with that staffing model. And again, meaning that we need to go back to that office, we need to go back to our other leadership and start looking at what can we do about getting folks down here on the floor. But one other thing I will say, and we talked about this in the clubhouse,
Hmm.
my fear for managers and my fear for supervisors, especially if you're not being compensated at an overtime rate, one, you're losing money. I mean, just from a business standpoint, it's not actually fair to you. But a lot of folks don't pay overtime for us, so it's really sometimes it's a non-negotiable conversation. However, if you're finding that you're consistently on the floor daily, or you're consistently having to do overtime to meet your metrics, that's not going to get you where you want to go, and it allows for your leadership to not actually see the issue in your department because we're covering it, right? We're making it look nice.
Yeah.
Nobody knows anything bad is going on down in SPD because all the cases went off without a hitch, right? And we
Right.
love that. We wear that like a banner. Right? We're like,
Hmm.
it was the washer one was down. We had two techs and we
Right.
cleaned it out, right? And it's
Right. Right.
it's
Right. Right.
great, but
Right.
also it's not great.
Right. Yeah. True. 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 Yeah.
Need to
True.
be excited.
So I posted on LinkedIn that this show was going to be about management, right? So I got some feedback, and some of the feedback was talking about technicians who
Mm,
basically do a few trays a day
mm,
for 8 hours and get through.
mm,
Not compared to managers who might do the same thing. but like why what's the difference? Or like what's the similarities between like a manager cutting corners or playing the system or a technician playing the system? Is there a similarity to that or there's a difference to that?
There's a similarity to that. A bad employee is a bad employee, and that doesn't matter what position you play, right? So
Hmm.
you could be a bad frontline tech, you could be a bad senior leader. It doesn't and maybe bad and good are not the appropriate words for us to use, but
Nothing is
you
bad or good.
right, but you could be, you could have some opportunities for improvement at all levels. So I
Hmm.
think that's apples and oranges in a sense, but I think I think that comment is more towards ha- the quantity, right? There's one of me, and there's let's just get say 20 of them.
Hmm.
If 20 technicians are doing 3 trays in 8 hours, we're not going to get anywhere. And that doesn't matter if I come out and throw down 50 as a manager. They're
Right.
not producing. And at that point, we have to start look, okay, like is this even a fair trade? As employees, we talk about this on the process a lot. We're trading skills. They're paying us for our talent to produce these kits, and our patients are counting on us. That's a fact, right?
Hmm.
So it just doesn't jive. But you will see that. You will see technicians that and managers. You'll see technicians, you'll see managers, you'll see senior leaders that make it their business to figure out how to not do anything worthwhile today.
But there are those technicians who know how to get by. Okay, so I'm working with three people, and I know each of them are heavy hitters. This guy is putting out 20 ortho. This lady is putting out 50 general.
Hmm.
This other lady is putting out ENT. She's doing the floor stuff, and then
Yep.
she's going back in digging time. So I could kind of finagle my way all between the cracks, put a couple loads in, grab a synthesis tray, spread it out over the counter, go back in digging time, load some racks, and I
Yes.
could do that for 8 hours without doing any work. So, what do you say about the employees? You're laughing like you've seen that already. Um, how could
Right, right. You may or may not see that a little around in our
so there?
industry.
Yeah, yeah, that's around a lot. So,
So, hey, I'll say this. The
mhm.
technicians are savvy, so they will clock it. And and that's one thing I will say. Like for that person, if you think nobody notices, they notice. If they can tell you who doesn't pick up what trades, they can tell you who avoids every time there's a AAA or every time the Actis broach trays come down, they can tell you who's never going to pick them up. So I, especially when I'm training new technicians, one of the things I tell them as far as tips to kind of break the ice with vets, when you're in assembly, clock what they don't touch and go to that. Because you'll make yourself a subject matter expert about something that they have avoided. And I promise you, there's going to be a clutch moment where they don't know about that respiratory tray and you're the one that has the knowledge and they feel like they can count on you. So there's that happens. And it's something that we ask supervisors all the time to please watch out. Because again, patients are counting on you as well. So we have to think about those skills. And this is for managers and techs. If I'm a manager and I avoid sterilizing for 4, 5, 6 months, maybe there's a day where somebody calls out and that position is open and they need me and I'm struggling, I'm drowning because I haven't done this in so long. If you let your skills languish, it's to the detriment of your team. So you really should strive to know at least to be feel comfortable with everything that your department provides.
So, but like now, let me go back to a but, right? So some managers feel they know everything, right? Without actually going in the trenches, talking to the team, right? I've heard of some huddles where managers would get in there and dictate, we're gonna do X, Y, and Z. I don't care what y'all say. This is what we're gonna do. This is why we're gonna do it. And they're not listening to that. The washers take 45 minutes. In digging time, we can't follow that process because it takes too long. And prep and pack, we can't scan 5 times to get it to one shelf and then scan it to the table, then scan it again. It's like these processes are outdated and antiquated and too cumbersome, and they slow us down basically. So, what do you say about managers like that who don't listen to their team on a regular basis and make things harder for their team, thinking it's
Listen.
the best thing. It's like a parent who doesn't listen to the
Yeah,
kid,
you're just
but
on that power trip, right? And
right.
you're not really collaborating, you're not really giving that team. It makes me think about the leadership memes that we see where there's the boss and they're striking the whip, and then there's the leader, and the leader is actually at the front of the pack. Those professional types exist out there, and that's even on the floor. We have some technicians that no matter what you tell them, you could walk up to that person and say, "Hey, we are not supposed to crack the door on that sterilizer." And they're going to look at you and tell you, "I've been cracking the door for 15 years and I'm going to keep cracking it." And I could bring them every standard, I could bring them every IFU, and they're just not going to hear me. So, I mean, what do I say about that from a leadership perspective? I say that's extremely unfortunate. Because not only are you going to lose out on potential solutions, you're going to lose out on the trust of your team. You're going to lose out on the potential efficiencies by collaborating with them.
So, guys, thank you for that piece. Now, I'll piggyback on that when we come back. We'll go into a short break, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to the process. Today we're talking about managers, management. What are some do's or don'ts? What makes a good manager, a bad manager? Not good or bad, but what areas managers could improve to be more productive and bridge that gap between themselves and the team and have some more better communication. In my intro, I spoke about on my you call that my small short video promotion for the show. I spoke about managers coming in late, leaving early, managers who spend the entire day in the office, leave, don't say. Now, not saying goodbye is not a big deal, but not being present, I believe, is a big deal.
Yeah,
I
not
feel
being
you
present.
definitely need to let your team know, especially simple things like having days off. If you have a day off, just say, "Hey guys, I won't be here on Thursday and Friday. Anything you have to tell me right now, let me know. Come to the office. I have an open door policy, which should always be. Let me know, and I'll address it when I come back, or send me an email, and I'll address it when I come back." You have some managers take time off and they disappear. You have no idea. You come to the door and it's locked, the lights off, and you're like, is she off today?
Close for business.
You're right. Is she off today or is he off today?
I'm
Yeah.
guilty.
Oh, I
I'm
had some
guilty,
eat. You
Deannard.
oh, you do that too?
I'm guilty. So
No.
there have
Oh my god.
definitely been times where I've forgotten to tell everybody that I had a day off. Um, there have definitely, like when you said not saying goodbye is like okay. I try to make sure that I do like around and say goodbye, but also sometimes it can suck you back into the work.
Mm-hmm.
So
True. True.
forget this and did you see that and it'll be another hour you trying to get out the door. But I've definitely
Yeah.
forgotten to give notices on certain things like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, as a
I
general practice, absolutely. Our team should know where we are. They should know how to reach us. They should know who to contact if they
Yep.
can't reach us. Because, even if I'm not available, that's not an excuse for me not to have a resource for my staff member.
Definitely, I agree 100%. So, what before you leave, say goodbye. No matter if they're gonna ask you, sometimes it's the most important things happen at the end of the day. Oh, where does this instrument go? Oh, good thing I'm here. Oh, did you order X, Y, and Z? Oh yeah, let me put that in right now.
Good thing I'm here. No.
good, good thing I'm here.
Nah, come on
you
now,
know,
because when it's I'm gonna
synthesis.
be that devil's advocate, because when it's time for y'all to clock out,
but
Gone.
you gotta care more. You gotta care more. You gotta have more
Do
passion
I?
than that.
Do I?
Yeah, you gotta care more.
Do
You're
I
like the
have to
mother
care
hen.
more?
You gotta take care of the what baby chicken's called. I don't know.
Oh Lord.
Well, the chickens,
Baby
chicklets, whatever. Well, you gotta you have to take care of them because you know more. When you have more. What did they say about Spider Man? If you have more, with more power comes more responsibility. So you have more responsibility. So definitely greet your team in the morning. Don't just show up in the office.
huh?
Make sure you let them know, hey, I'm leaving. Good night. See you. Because when I'm leaving for the day, I say two goodbyes. I say one, hey guys, I'm about to leave. Y'all need anything? Sometimes I stay like for an extra hour, as you said, right?
Yeah.
Then I say,
Easy.
and then like, didn't you say you were leaving? You know,
Right.
so and then I say my last goodbye when I'm actually dressed rolling out. So there's always two goodbyes, so they know
Oh,
I'm about to roll.
you the
So and
best.
then the second goodbye, sometimes I still end up staying, ordering, etc., etc.
You give him a hug and a cookie and tuck
Yeah,
him in too.
yeah, cozy. But,
Aw, he the best.
but definitely goodbye. Definitely let your team know that you're not here.
What you
Because
know.
sometimes you're thinking you're gonna walk around the corner like, oh yeah, I'll ask this question when I see them, or as I'll find out this, and then they're looking like, oh, she left.
Yeah.
Like, dang, yeah, you know. So
Yes.
definitely, I feel that's definitely the important part. I have another
Absolutely.
question. Oh, I have a comment. We have a comment here.
And cut him some slack.
Hey, Rebecca, how are you? Thank you for tuning in.
Hey,
Appreciate it.
Becky.
Hey. So yeah, I like her profile pic. That's a new one.
All right
Um.
now.
So
Spicy profile fix.
yeah. So Becky has been on our walk on Saturdays.
Yes.
She has definitely joined us and shared some interesting stories.
Yes. I
Really.
want to say I've learned some I like because we get on there and we're all SPD, but she does a lot of foraging for mushrooms. So I've learned a lot about that since meeting her.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And I don't eat mushrooms,
Oh Lord,
especially in my pizza or in my omelet or in my hoagies
okay.
or in my cheesesteaks. I just don't like mushrooms.
You
Period.
okay?
So so Becky, thanks for watching, being part of the show. We really appreciate it. Becky, what do you think about managers who skip out on their duties because they're dodging from their manager and their team? Oh, she said she loves mushrooms and their
It's a
team.
hard
So
spot
how do
to
we
be
hold
in,
these
right?
managers
Mushroom dust.
accountable? How, how do we hold these managers accountable? You see what they're doing or what they're not doing. Where do we go? Do we
Hmm.
say, "Hey, boss lady or boss man, we want you more on the
So
floor,"
I
or
think
what?
it.
What do we
I,
do
I think it all
if
depends,
they say
right?
no?
Right. I think it all depends because you outlined so many different scenarios. So, but I think the basic thing is what you just said. If you really do feel like you need that, you need to see your manager more, I would start with just having a conversation with my manager. And I think, a lot of times, especially when it comes to constructive criticism, we all love to be afforded respect. And I think sometimes when you have that perceived divide between frontline staff and managers, sometimes frontline staff can forget that managers are people and to kind of take it easy on them. Like nobody wants to be flamed or called out in the middle of a shift report. Just like a manager shouldn't do that to a technician. Don't do your manager like that. Got us on the spot in front of 10 people and you're like, why aren't you? Okay.
Yeah, but
Most people's first response is going to be defensive, and that's not really what we want. So I would encourage people to just come talk to your manager and let them know, hey, this is something that I've heard about, or this is something that I've seen in other places, and I think it could be something that could really help us build up our teamwork, because that's what it's all about, right? We're not going in there saying, "Hey, you should have put up Tisto tray just like me." We're going in there and we're saying it would be helpful for me as a technician if I had more access to you, if I could ask you questions more often, if I could see how you do your work more often, if you could hear from us more often.
or vice versa. We want you to learn from us what's taking this synthesis small frag
Yes,
25 minutes or this
absolutely.
5.0 or
I can't
4.0 synthesis
tell you
crude,
how many
you know.
count sheet errors, how especially when we talking about something like consignment trays or synthes, a lot of the times I find out that there's problems with those trays by walking through assembly and the technician is like, "Okay, look, the bottom part of this small frag is not on the count sheet."
or this tray is missing an entire level.
The
We have
entire
no
level
idea
just
where
gone. So it
yes,
happens.
yeah, yeah, definitely. So I like Rebecca's comment. I always feel guilty living without saying goodbye. My current manager never lives without saying goodbye, but she literally is a motherly figure to us all. So that's definitely a positive. Whoever your manager is, tell her I said from Sterile MD. Thank you for that. She set an example. So when her future managers come up from under her, they will do the same thing. So that's definitely a positive.
Y'all might convert me, but I'm gonna start it
Yeah.
an hour and 45 before I leave though.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Oh, here's Leslie. Hey,
Oh,
Leslie.
Leslie.
Also a great friend to the show. Um, hmm.
You
You say,
said
hey, manager, I
Leslie.
don't know how to do this. Can you show me? Wow, that's great. You should you should do that every day. Wow.
She said, "Oh, you do know how to run the sterilizer.
You're
You should
right.
do it more often."
Right. Hey,
Leslie with the
hey,
shade.
yo, can you run a load? I got the Da Vinci instruments. Just put that into me. I'm
Hey,
going to the bathroom. I'll be right back.
I'ma say this.
They'll be like,
I
right.
think everybody
Hmm.
from transporters to sterilizers to wherever in SPD, once you come in and you put that bouffant cap on and those scrubs, it's game time. At a minimum, there's your caseload of patients that are waiting for you. And every patient is multiple folks that are waiting for you, right? I mean, the patient itself literally has to have someone there with them that's waiting. But you also have their family members that have been stressed out about the fact that they have to have surgery. The patient hasn't been able to eat. They're nervous. They're scared. They have whatever condition they have going into this. Come in there and give it everything you got. Nobody's requiring you to stay over. Nobody's requiring you to be a Superman. But come in and do your fair share of 8 hours. And if you're not going to do that, maybe this isn't the place for you.
Who you
That's
talking?
the
Who you talking
conversation
about?
that we have to
Who you talking
have.
about? The
I'm talking
manager or
about
the?
anybody
Oh,
that
okay.
comes
All
into
right.
SPD, techs, managers. If you don't feel like, because I was about to say if you don't love it, but some of the conversations that we've had, especially with Clubhouse, I've changed my mind on that. You don't have to love SPD to stay in SPD, but you do have to work. And that's two totally different things. Sometimes we see the passion as being the driver of why the person did 40 trades. Maybe they're not so passionate about those trades, but they're hard workers and they're
Hmm.
efficient and that's what they're gonna do. So, we talk about those lines. Should it be 12 trades a day? Should it be 20 trades? We could argue about that all day. But what it should be is consistent production. It shouldn't be you sneaking around or you only picking up the cameras or you taking an extra 15 minutes on all of your breaks or you're sitting in the ante room not getting taking 45 minutes to put your PPE on, like all of that adds up and that's all a loss to the patient.
So my friend to the show, Hank, says, "Hi, all stars." So I'm gonna put this back on there. So Hank is looking at the technicians as, "Hey, what about those guys cutting corners?"
What
You
about them?
know, I'm like, why? How? What recourse do you have for the managers who are cutting corners? Like what? Like, hey, my manager didn't do a thing. I saw him on the headphones all day. Like, what do
It's
you do? Do
true.
you say, "Hey, you busted," or I'm going to the property service director or
I
I mean,
think,
what do you do? Like,
yeah.
hey,
I think we start where we said, right? We start by giving the person the courtesy, have the conversation. If that conversation goes nowhere, or if you truly do feel too intimidated to have that conversation, And it's going to depend on your department. Sometimes you can reach out to an HR partner and have that conversation with them. If there's senior leadership that you guys work closely with, like a lot of sterile processing departments work closely with a peri-op director or a chief nurse or a senior vice president. If there are folks in that line that you feel comfortable to have a conversation with. However, I will say this: anytime you escalate a conversation, you want to understand that that's exactly what you're doing. You're escalating the conversation, right? We see this on the floor a lot where stuff happens on the floor and technicians don't come in to talk to the managers because they understand that if they have that conversation, now the manager's going to go talk to that person and this is
Oh,
going to become a bigger deal. So really assess if that's necessary. And if it is, escalate professionally and respectfully because at the end of the day, those are still your bosses and you also want to make sure you do get the buy-in, right? If I'm going to go and talk to my manager's boss, I want my manager's boss to take me seriously, right? I don't want to come in there saying, well,
mhm,
she's never on the floor and she doesn't pick up trays and she doesn't run the sterilizer. That's actually technically not her job. But I could be definitely
mhm.
coming in there with a very real concern of saying, it's not helpful for me if I don't have a resource and I don't actually have a leadership that I can go to. And here's some of the situations that I found myself in, or here's some of the questions that I've asked and I've not been able to get answered. I would try to be a little more again respectful and professional about that escalation.
Hmm.
But
Interesting, but
everybody
yeah, but
everybody
that's
has a
all.
part.
But that's always the way to go. You don't want to call anybody out.
You'd
Not
be
not.
surprised. I mean, you don't. I would agree. You don't want to call anybody out, but you'd be surprised some of the things that I've seen as a manager and as a supervisor of the way that technicians and leadership will speak to each other. It's very concerning sometimes. But I mean, it's just that to me, it's that's the difference of how of respect. I don't have to like a person. I don't have to love everything about you, but I always have to respect you, and that's just because you're a person. So there's everybody has a way that they want to be spoken to, and I think we all know that some of that behavior can be a little over the line. And I think people get comfortable again, like I said earlier, I think people get comfortable because they see it as a divide. That's management and we're frontline. So I'm battling on behalf of us. And you're attacking that person, and that's not team building. Because team building is not it's not just a manager. I mean, you can be the nicest manager in the world, you can round all day. If the team doesn't want to talk to you, if they don't want to respect you, kind of a duck in the water on that one.
I think it's about the approach too. Are you
Approach
approaching
what?
it in? Are you like you coming in as a manager? You coming in at 100%, right? Now you are responsible for breaking yourself down. Like you coming at 100, everybody respects you at 100, right? Now, whether you go down to 80, 70, 60, 50% respect, that's based on your approach. Because everybody, when you walk in the door, your first day, everybody like you like, bam, that's the person that's gonna make our lives better, right? Why is she laughing? Why
I
is she
laugh
laughing? That's
because
the right.
I've
Look
had
at like
both. I've had it where I've walked into new teams and they're like, thank God we have been waiting for a manager. I've also walked into teams where they're like, oh no, another one. We've been running this just fine without you and we don't need you. But for both circumstances, I think you still have to execute what you're talking about, which is that approach. Because regardless, it is my job to infiltrate that. It's my job to build the bridge between my staff members. So I still have to come up with an approach. I can't just say, well, they don't really want to talk to me, so I'm just not going to talk to
right,
them.
right, exactly, exactly. I think this is Hank. Hank is leaving another comment. Can you read it? I'm not a good
Oh
reader.
yes.
Jeez.
So we have another comment up, and it says, as someone who started in 1999 and worked my way up, when I was a supervisor, I was on the floor when we had call-ins and not enough coverage. And as a manager, it's the same. I have my admin duties, and I am still a tech that never leaves. But some staff and I have had those who forget that they are not a tech. You are a leader, and your work hours, short or long, vary. Your duties, your workload varies. Thank thank you for backing us up a little bit. But yes, that's such a important statement because again, we don't see everything that manager is doing. We don't see every meeting that they have to go to. We don't see every phone call that they get. And in addition to that, if we're really talking about good managers, most of those people are still taking those calls. Like if I go home at 3 o'clock, that doesn't necessarily mean my day ends. I could still get calls from evening shift, night shift, and that's not going to be seen by my entire team. And I'm also not going to come through bellowing that out from on high. Like I want everyone to know I was up at 3 o'clock in the morning helping night shift, and I just want you to know I'm here for you. You it's that's not going to get you where you want to go.
Definitely. Guys, also we're on YouTube. If you want to check us out later, I've just been working behind the scenes to try and um, get the links. So we're on YouTube, and you guys check us out on SterileMD on YouTube.com. You'll get the same show. You'll be able to rewind, fast forward, and you won't have to be on Facebook if you don't prefer Facebook. And you could still leave comments on the live too. So
Yes. And
if
if
you
you
wanna,
guys
if
check
you
us out on YouTube, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe.
you know what, thank you for adding that bit in, because guys, you could always like, share, subscribe, and also hit that little notification bell. Um, that'll definitely help you get notified every time we have a new video. Yep,
All right.
definitely. Also, I also have some people that have never been leaders or dealt with leading. People always try to tell you what to do or how to do your job. Yeah,
Yes.
true, 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 Hank,
Yes.
true, Hank. They're always those people, but maybe their level of expertise, because some people have soft skills, some people have hard skills. Maybe they know how to clean certain instrumentation better than the manager, which who hasn't cleaned that specific instrumentation for like 5, 10 years, maybe. So maybe they have a better insight
Yes.
right now,
Yes.
especially new instrumentation coming out like Da Vinci. Right, we have some technicians that know like the back of their hand. Boom, boom, boom,
Oh,
flush,
absolutely.
brush. I flush the 8 ports, blah, blah, blah. When I'm in prep and pack, I put my lubricant. I make sure
But here's
bam,
the thing,
it's
and I
done.
know I know nobody really wants to hear this, but
Mm-hmm. Who doesn't
that's
want to
not
hate?
the management's job. So you could, I mean, if we're talking job descriptions, and we know how much we hate to hear some staff members come in and say that's not in my job description, right? In my
Mm-hmm.
everyday job description, that is actually not a part of their workflow. So you could beat your chest till you're blue in the face talking about how you're the expert at flexible scopes and you're the expert at synthes and you're the expert at sterilizing. That's great. But as far as the day-to-day job that I've been hired to execute, that's not a part of what I have to do every day. So unless you can say you're the best at making schedules, you're the best at contract negotiations, you're the best at capital planning, you're the best at finance requests, you're the best at negotiating construction contracts unless you can say that, you're not actually saying that you're better at management. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Deannard. And also, when you're that person that is spending that much time critiquing folks, and I just honestly feel this, you would never, you would never step into those roles. I see techs, especially with my union staff members, that have been at that expert level for years, and they will not move into supervisor or manager positions because they know they don't want to do that.
So who's making the policy for processing those instruments?
Your managers,
Okay, so. Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So if there's a technician who's an expert, so why aren't those managers listening to say, well, what direction or what's the best
I don't think
direction?
I don't think that pervasively that's the case. Like I think across the board, most SPD managers are SPD technicians that have been moved up. So those folks are folks that have that background. I think where we start to get a little bit kind of hairy or concerned is
Hmm.
when we see folks that are from a different background, or maybe who haven't spent as much time on the floor, start making those decisions without any input. But even if you are an expert, let's say I've been, doing Da Vinci for my entire cell processing career. As a
Uh-huh.
manager, I still don't think that that gives me leeway to write that policy without consulting at least with my supervisor team or with some of my technicians. And depending on what your process is, maybe they do have a process where they include everyone. But again, those individual tasks do not compromise or comprise the totality of that management position. So there's always going to be something. I mean, even if somebody
Oh,
promoted us to be directors today, there's something that Alessandra and Deannard are not experts at, but we still have to provide oversight for that.
it's not about being an expert as a manager. It's about being a conduit to the team to get that thing done
Absolutely.
right. Like you got to be able to communicate with them.
You absolutely have to be
I
able
don't
to
like
communicate.
your opinion. You know what? I don't like your opinion, so I'm gonna get an expert on here to share their opinion because I don't like what you're saying right now.
Do it.
You what the?
Do it.
Well, you're in trouble, D, because I agree with her. So
Oh,
now it's 2-on-1.
Let's go, Hank.
Yeah, tag team, right? Okay, let's make this happen. No, I appreciate y'all
I thought
letting
we were
me.
gonna gang up on her and get this. I mean, like,
Tried it.
No, listen. I am so impressed with this conversation that I was going through Facebook and I was commenting like through YouTube, and I'm just really impressed because you're bringing out the nuances and complexity in this conversation. It's just so easy. Y'all have already covered this, but it's so easy for folks to see it from one perspective, like their perspective, and not see it from what the leadership perspective is, from a good leader, from a bad leader, from a good tech, from a bad tech. Like all of those categories exist, plus all kind of combination in between.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, just major props on trying to find that middle ground here and to really flesh it out, because it is real life. I think I said that in one of my comments. This is just real life sterile processing.
Yeah. That's how people really think. And like people walk around like, did you see him today? No, I didn't see him. Did you see her? No. I think I saw them for like 5 minutes. Oh,
Right.
is the light on in the office? Okay, good. Let's put the music on. It's like.
But listen, if they're saying those things, there's a problem.
There's a problem.
True.
There's already a problem. Like, and the problem is not like how long the manager's been there, right? You don't talk about a manager like that you love, that sacrifices for you, that's there for you. Like, you're not going to be like, oh, are they there? Like when they come in, when they go in, because you don't care, because they got your back and they're supporting you and they're doing everything that a good leader should be doing. If they're not doing those things though, and then they're coming in late and they're leaving early and they're leaving you hanging in decontam, and like they're making all these rules that are not tied to reality. Oh man, then like everything starts boiling up and having those conversations. So
Hold up, Hank.
Okay,
Hold
okay,
up.
go ahead.
So that's a real life situation you just said. The real life situation. Real life. I don't know if you lived it, but move on.
Or how
Move
many
on.
times you lived it.
Yeah. Right. Well, it's the symptom of the disease, right? Like if you're already seeing those things, there's something deeper at play, both from that kind of leadership challenge, but also from the technicians, right? And I was just talking earlier today about the topic of burnout, and actually, like Leslie, like one of your commenters, earlier, brought up a great post a couple of days ago talking about toxic people, and she brought up the idea that hey, we can all become toxic. Like you're not born a toxic person. You're not born a toxic coworker or a toxic manager. Correct. And there are things that can happen in your career and in your life that just pushes you in that direction toward toxicity. And so it's important for us, like even if you're in this scenario that we're talking about and you've got like a crappy manager who's like totally mentally checked out, like passion checked out, not there, who knows what happened they may not have been like that, 2 years ago or 5 years
Sure.
ago.
Yes.
It's not our job to be their psychiatrist, right? But there is there's a level of that humanity, that we need to keep in mind, not only for leaders, but same thing for techs. Like keep in mind that your techs got stuff going on. And if they're checking out and doing things in the corner, or like checking in late or trying to leave early or whatever, like ask some other questions. That's all we're saying.
Mm-hmm. Because if you fish, you will find. You start pulling the threads on those things, and you will find. And like as a manager, there have been times where I've come in hot, right? Like maybe this particular tech has called out several times, and I'm coming at it from the perspective of my shift that's saying, man, we're short again, this person again. And so I'm coming into the meeting hot, like, listen, Hank, where have you been?
Right.
And then they talk to me about what's actually going on with them. And then it's like, whoa, oh, wait, let us resource you right now. Like, we totally understand. So those things can happen. But if we're constantly stuck on the negative, we will never find that out. And then what you see is that you'll either lose that staff's passion or their attention, or you may lose them as a body altogether. They may leave the department because they don't feel supported.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
True.
I mean, but what I really want to see, like around the board, is if we are concerned about these things, like if we're concerned that same type of people are just calling out every time, or the same kits are being left down, is there a positive way that we can collaborate around that? Like, can we all agree to come in and grab one of the lap trays as soon as we hit the floor, instead of saying, oh my God, every single lap tray is down?
Wow.
Like, it changes the dynamic if you have that one person that, because we all have that one person that's always upbeat no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you're looking at them like,
But
like,
the saying is true. People don't quit their jobs, they quit their manager.
people don't quit their jobs, they quit their managers. But I also think people quit their teams. And we don't talk about that enough.
Yeah. Well, I kind of I agree, and then I also disagree, right? Like they do quit their jobs sometimes, and this goes totally off track, but compensation.
Yeah.
They can quit their jobs over safety concerns, right? And yeah, like there's some of that that's tied into leadership, but at the end of the day, anyone knows from that manager perspective, you can only do so much. Like you can want to get raises, you can want to buy new equipment, to update cart washers, but at the end of the day, like it's not you who makes that final decision. So you do have a lot of scenarios, I think, in our industry where folks would stay if the job paid more, if the job was safer, if there was a clearer route for growth, for them. And it's not all, again, tied to who it is in charge. Right. That's true many times. So that's the part that I agree with you. There's a lot of bad leaders out there, or there's a lot of leaders maybe that are just like not bad to the core, but it's just not their skill set. They got there and they're not the best person for that job, and that causes folks to leave.
Intensely. Intensely. And as a manager, you can influence that a little bit too, just depending on, how you're presenting that information. If I come out on the floor and I tell my team, oh, senior leadership doesn't care about us, I asked for this, and this, and they didn't give it to me.
Right.
You're creating an environment where it's just like, okay, yeah, I don't think this is the place for me.
Right.
And so folks will hop out and move on to the next spot.
That's such a challenge, but that concept of how to lead and communicate in the context of a challenging environment, that's what distinguishes the boys from the men, or the women from the girls from the women, right? Mm-hmm. Is like a leader, a true leader can get bad news from the C-suite and then get the game face on and come into their team and still communicate in a way that you're not blaming everything on the C-suite or on the hospital, like can't give us this or won't give us this, because then you're causing that division that tells your technicians, hey, this hospital system doesn't care about me, or the C-suite doesn't care about me. So yeah, why am I going to stay here?
Why am I staying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hanging out for this rodeo. Mm-mm.
I agree. That's a great point.
Yeah, so guys, let's go into a 30-second break and we'll be right back. Is that cool?
All right.
Sure.
It was
All
too much
right.
ganging up on him. He didn't like that.
Yeah, that's like I feel that I'm not getting recognized for my opinion, and I know I have a valid point here. So we'll be right back. So, guys, welcome back. Welcome back to Process. We have Mr. Hank Balch, the famous Hank Balch in here.
Yeah.
What's up?
Alessandra Nicholson, the famous Alessandra
Yeah,
Nicholson also.
right.
This comment, I can't see who is this comment from. This is from Sterile Processing Prep Exams. So, a cool guy. I've seen him around. Let me see which comment is it. As someone who started, is that the same comment? Oh, there's sometimes bringing new education or in services to the floor can spark interest in the trays. In the trays always left behind. Also, making some tech champion for the specific service can help boost morale and responsibility. That's true. That's true. I've seen that. Sometimes people want to be recognized. That's all. People want to be recognized.
Recognized.
Well, and if you're out there looking for a side hustle and you're like one of those weird people that likes laparoscopic trays, like there are hospitals that pay companies, like third-party companies, to just come in and manage all their laparoscopic trays. Like we had that program actually at one of my hospitals in Kentucky. And yeah, like none of our technicians like doing the major laps. And so they didn't have to do them. We paid this other company come in a lot of money, and they babied all of the laparoscopic instruments. And do I advocate, for that as like the best that we can do in sterile processing? I don't know, like whatever, but if you want to make a lot of money and you love lap trays, like, start telling people that you love this and become real good at it. And who knows, like you can start a whole other company around it.
Right.
But that could definitely be a crutch for your department because you have people actually coming through your system not knowing how to put a lab tray together, not knowing how to do integrity test on a lab instrument to make sure it doesn't have a crack or the insulation isn't messed up.
Man, you're trying to get me riled up now because what this gets at. No, you're right. You're right. But it gets at this challenge of specialization versus cross training. Yes. And I think I'm on that spectrum way over here. Like I think if we really want to change our industry, we want to be treated as professionals and as experts, we have to find a way to specialize more. So like if you've got your appendix that burst, you don't want to go to a brain surgeon. You want to go to a general surgeon who's good at doing appendix, right? If you're a kid and you need surgery, like you want to go to a pediatric surgeon. You don't want to go to one that's like a podiatrist, But in sterile processing, we've got this mindset that everybody's got to know everything about every process and every instrument tray and got to be the expert about every single thing. But if you pull one of us out and say, like, do you know everything possible that there is to know about laparoscopic instrumentation? The answer is usually no, because I don't have time to specialize about this. So like all of our knowledge is this deep and it's around all these service lines. But beyond that, good luck. And that's where we have all these other gaps. So you're right. It does, like if you don't do certain things in certain departments, like you become weaker in some sense. But I would argue to replace that, if you're not doing lap trays, then learn how to do your Da Vinci's that much better, or like your pediatrics that much better.
Absolutely.
So what I really took from what you said, hold on. What I really took from what he said was, you're right.
Got
So
that part, yeah. You
continue,
got that part,
continue.
y'all heard
You're
that,
right, period. Okay. No more comma, nothing after that. I'll just stop next time.
I ain't
So-
gonna take it away from you, but I do want to add, just piggybacking on that gap, because that specialization gap is also getting wider in the sense that the things that are specialized are becoming even more complex. So, so where it used to
Yeah.
be that putting together a lab tray was about as complex as it got, now we're doing conductivity testing with Da Vinci. We've got some of those ortho robots, the Rosa robot just came out. So, when I say I'm an ortho tech, that back in the day, that used to mean that I was great at putting up synthese trays. Now that means I might be proficient in robotics. So we have to keep our eye on that ball.
Yeah. And it goes, that's a whole nother conversation. So you may want to do a whole nother show on it, but it does go into that compensation piece. And I think it's at least worth a shot. Like, we've been trying to fight this battle now for years, and we've been fighting it kind of with an assumption that let's keep everything the same except for, pay us more. But it might be worth kind of reevaluating and say, okay, let's see if we change this model to a specialist model, and you have service line specialists out there that if that you're like a heavy ortho facility, like you want to hire some ortho specialists and you're going to pay a premium for that specialty. And that would allow, like, you could break it down by service lines. You could break it down by areas, like Gus Fargus with like the laser thing. Like, he and I have talked a lot about, could we create a market for just decontaminators? Like, I know travelers hate that when they come in and they're like, you signed up for 3 months of decontam.
Right.
But if
With
you
higher
got
pay.
paid $10 more an hour to do decontamination in a permanent role, and we tiered out that structure, would that incentivize excellence in decontam? Because again, we're asking people to know not only all the instruments, but all the processes for all of the instruments every time.
Water quality.
Right. Like, if you could specialize and only spend all 8 hours in decontam, that'd be hard. But if you wanted to do that, how much better would you get at all the nuances of the manual cleaning process, of the time, the temperature, the chemicals? You would be an expert. Same thing with assembly. Same thing in sterilization. But we have not given our technicians that opportunity in most places because it's kind of forced in that cross-training model. So I'm not saying that it's absolutely the answer. I'm just saying, why not give it a shot somewhere?
Why not think about it?
Yeah, but
I'm gonna
I
just
think
say, D, this is some of the stuff we think about when we're in our office.
No, that's what I think about when I'm leaving at 2:30 on my way home.
right.
Maybe we should do this different.
But yeah, when you're leaving at 12 on Friday. But
it's for brainstorming.
Brainstorming, all right. So, but I think the main issue with getting that stuff done is staffing. That's the main thing. Because one day you want to pull that person out of decontam, you want to pull that person off lab instruments, do some ortho trays, do some Da Vinci. So definitely, I think the staffing models for sterile processing and maybe the pay. I'm not too sure exactly what it is, but we definitely have a shortage of staff right now. And then, how would someone be able to move around? Let's say you got cut, right? You fill out your application for another facility that doesn't have Da Vinci, or another facility that doesn't have a specific area designated to. Big bad.
I said, this is the part that hurts me when I see my technicians that are working as expert in certain things, and they can't take those skills and translate it into their resumes because those roles either don't exist or they didn't have those titles at the space that they were at. And it does translate to a loss of compensation for them because they're not able to take those marketable skills to the negotiating table at the next spot.
Right.
So true. So true.
So much, guys. This was such a great show.
So let me say one thing on that to think some more about it. Yeah, there is disruption. It will disrupt the market, and there will be that kind of that season of transition.
Mm-hmm.
But think about it in a totally different context, like in the airline context. There are pilots, there are flight attendants, there are mechanics, and they all do different things, and they have different jobs, they have different roles. And yes, you're not going to see a flight attendant step in if the pilot doesn't show up.
Correct.
And that's how the model is built. And so for sterile processing to change in this way to specialize, yes, it's going to require a different staffing model, different access and all those kind of things. But it could be part of the reason that we just continue to hit that brick wall for compensation, because we're trying to do it in a staffing framework that just doesn't allow for that level of expertise and growth that folks want to pay to incentivize. So
I agree 100%.
Definitely. Hank, you brought some good information, and that staffing model. I've heard about that for a while now. I just don't know how it's gonna get done with the models we with the departments we have now, the short staff, and in fact, actually the layout of the departments. Like there is no one specific place for. Everyone doesn't have a station, basically. Everybody doesn't have a station. It's kind of
Where do you
shared
put
amongst
the
everybody.
experts and the ortho
Right. Where do
experts
you
and the lab
right,
experts?
exactly? Where do you put all the boroscopes you need? So but yeah, that's a whole other
But one thing we do know is it won't get done if the manager comes late, leaves early,
really,
and doesn't
yes,
come on the floor.
doesn't come out the office. Like, what's going on there? Who's in there? And then people talking outside the office. I think she's inside there. I think she's there.
Absolutely.
Knock the
I mean,
door.
I think that's what I want to leave it at. Everybody, whoever works in that department, managers, educators, transporters, techs, case card coordinators, I don't care what position you're in. When you come in, give your 100%. That's what we're asking for. We're trading those productive skills for our patients. And in my eyes, every kit that we don't have up successfully is an opportunity for our patients to not receive adequate care. So we really should make it a point to do the best that we can.
And yeah, exactly. And piggybacking on that, managers should always take the opportunity to share their knowledge, because you never know who's coming through your facility or your department. That might be the next manager, supervisor, or even a director who you might encourage to take college
It's a small
courses.
world.
Right. You might encourage to take college courses. Hey, this is how I became, this is how I got my master's, this is how I got my bachelor's, this is what I did. I took classes. It took me 5 years, it took me 10 years, I still got it. Now I'm a manager. At least share that knowledge, have those little conversations that might inspire somebody to move to the next level.
Absolutely.
So we good. So guys, thank you for joining. Leslie, thank you. I definitely see that in the future. Hopefully we get some good departments, and I have some big things coming up I want to announce, but not tonight. So definitely, guys, thank you. And somebody else just left a comment. I just want to share that. They don't want to pay us now. If you have a 3 or 4, sadly the psyche or C-suite just doesn't see our value. Who said that? I can't see the name right now.
Yeah, that's definitely been a hot topic. Definitely check out our YouTube.
Sheila
We've had
Matthews.
a few shows where we talked about that, Sheila, about not really seeing the compensation go up when the certifications go up, and what maybe we can do about that when we talk about C-suite not understanding the value. I think to Hank's point, we've got a lot of industry disruptors coming on the scene, folks that have been on the scene, new people coming in, but also the industry itself. I mean, with the pandemic, with the vaccine mandates, with the staffing shortages and crises, bed crises, the industry itself is going to force a lot of change. This was the first year that my C-suite ever asked me, without me coming in and saying we need more pay. This was the first year they came in and said, hey, did you know that there's an Amazon warehouse being built down the street and they're paying $20 an hour? And we had to have a real conversation about if they thought we were going to lose technicians. So, there's a lot of moving pieces right now. There's a lot of opportunity.
Yes, definitely. Hank, any closing thoughts?
Yeah, just keep asking these questions in your departments, and don't take anything for granted. Don't feel like you've got to stay in the box, and keep doing what you've been doing or always done. And I know like that's kind of cliche now, is like, oh yeah, like let's think outside the box. Let's not do things the way that we've always done it. But it's kind of like building at the top. It's like assuming all these things below, but not really being willing to change the foundational approach to sterile processing. And we're starting to see this in like the offsite model, in all the traveler staffing. Like you brought up a great point about the pandemic impact. You know, like there's just there's not enough people at all anymore to staff our departments. Like you see hiring signs all over the place, and restaurants and everything else.
So bonuses we've never seen.
Yeah. Like what does that mean for sterile processing? If this is the time that innovators shine, when the dust is in the air and everything's going crazy, this is the time for you. If you've got a crazy idea you've just been sitting on, bring it and say, hey, let's try this. Like the worst that can happen is it doesn't work. The best that can happen is it can change the whole industry. So that's all that I want to kind of throw out there.
Definitely. Thank you, Alessandra. Thank you, Hank, for coming on. And guys, little tidbit, all you got to do is go to YouTube, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And you can always catch the show on YouTube at a later date. So guys, thank you for watching, and we're out. Peace.
Peace.